Hey, I want to talk to you about DAO structures, and which is essentially like a decentralized company, right? And what they've been doing in the crypto space currently, and how that's different to traditional companies, businesses, and the pros and cons of that. So I think it's quite fascinating. So traditionally, right, if you wanted to start a company, like even early on, like crypto projects in Australia. I can think of a few of them, for example. What they did is they started a company, like a normal company. They went to an accountant, registered it, uh, hired employees, got bank loans, business loans, blah 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 blah. And the stats are, most businesses fail within the first year, especially startups, and if not, most fail within the first 5 years. Like, it's just like crazy stats. Like, the vast majority fail. And in that scenario, one or two people are taking a lot of risk. And if it fails, they've got a lot of debt to pay back, and it's very emotionally traumatic, very hard to bounce back from. And like, you have to be very sure about the idea that you have before you pursue it. And how can you really be perfectly sure that your idea is going to be a perfectly fruitful business? Like, you can't. So the amount of friction in establishing a company and fleshing out ideas makes makes it so that a lot of creativity and a lot of kind of entrepreneurship gets stifled, right? There's a lot of friction that's off-putting, and some of the time it's not even really the idea's fault. It could be a good idea. It could just be all the red tape and kind of things that are the undoing, and the stresses on the company, and it can mean that it fails before you can really properly flesh out the idea and get it working. So that's traditionally how businesses kind of work. I know it's a pretty negative outlook on it, and a lot of the red tape and friction supposedly is there to protect people. It's not trustless. That's the point, right? So even if you want to get FPOS for your retail business, like, it's hard to get FPOS unless you have credit history as a business, and things like it's anyway. So there's a lot of friction. Um, Now, with decentralized, or like DAOs, or essentially a decentralized company, you are splitting that risk up a lot. Now, that's not saying that the initial investors still have risk, right? Like, the earlier you invest, the more risk you're taking on, but also potentially the more reward. Um, but so in the case of Illuvium, right, is they've put together this white paper, and there's a lot of other examples of DAOs. This is a particularly good one, though, I think. Um, is So there's a initial council, and they put together this white paper. They flesh everything out. They say, "Hey, look, we're using the Ethereum network. We're going to make an ERC20 token. It's called ILV. There's 20 million of them. If you want to invest, we've got this idea. It's a fully decentralized RPG. You can read through this whole white paper and you think, wow, that's a fascinating idea. I back the 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 founders of this, the current council. I think they've been involved in things before. I trust them. They're going to keep working no matter what, and they're going to get this done." So you think, cool, I trust the founders, the council. I think this is a good idea, so I'm going to invest. And you can invest in any of these, early stages, right? There's a pre-seed, seed, the team, the treasury, the launch pad, and then like public. And this is all fleshed out here. So they get the initial investors in. Um, they use that money to hire team members and start kick the project off. And the interesting thing, right, is with this DAO is if you buy and hold an ILV token, you essentially own a part of Illuvium, of the DAO. So you have we're talking about DAOs now. So the main thing is it's a governance token, and you could submit ideas to the council, which they can say, that's a good or a bad idea, and everyone else can vote on whether that's a good or a bad idea. And then if it gets onto council, just say the idea is, we completely hate this current game you're making. We want it to be a first-person shooter. Let's just say, for example, that idea gets into the council. The council members have to be like, okay, well, the community wants this. We're going to flesh out, say, 5 different ideas we have for first-person shooter games and how to approach it, etc., etc. So do these design documents, present them to the community, and the community says, we like this one, or we like this one, or we don't like any of them. Go back to the drawing board. So the community interact with the council, and so it's a big decentralized company. Now, the initial founders or the initial council obviously have quite big stakes in the project, and they've putting in a lot of their time and work to hire people and start development, all these things. And I guess there's a lot of trust, right, in handing your company over to the masses and having decisions not be made by you. But this there are different scales of decentralization within DAOs, and with Illuvium they started quite centralized. So they voted in the first council members, who were people very close to the project, and for the first 6 months, they had to get a lot of stuff done. It would be, if it was fully decentralized from the get-go, and all the community had all these ideas and were changing things, and obviously it would take a while to get off the ground. So as time's gone on, they're becoming more decentralized, which is interesting. And so there's public sales, so anyone can buy ILV, have the governance token, and they can stake it. And the interesting thing about staking is you're saying, hey, I'm not selling this token. I'm going to stake it, and you get, they've specified that there's 3 million tokens that go to stakers over a long period of time. And that's the reward for kind of sticking with the project. And it's international, right? So because it's essentially unbanked and trustless, you can send money all around the world, ILV tokens around the world, USDT all around the world, and you can get people working from you everywhere. So people live in Discord essentially. It's a company that exists all around the world at once, and it's owned by the council and every single ILV holder. So it doesn't really sit anywhere. It's not like a traditional company. It's owned by every single person that owns an ILV token. Now the council and the team own 10% of the supply. Or it's team, 15%. When the game actually comes out, all the revenue earned by the game, so every single dollar on merchandise, everything spent, say Fortnite, every single dollar spent on Fortnite goes to Epic. Every single dollar. But with Illuvium, every single dollar spent on the game gets distributed to all of the ILV token holders. So if there's $10 billion spent on the game or in revenue in a year, that revenue is distributed between all the token holders. So you get, it's like dividends, right? So you get a share of how well the company does, and you get to input on the ideas, and you get to vote on the direction within the game, which is awesome. And this is kind of like I know it's not out yet, but it's kind of like a success story or a best case example of how well something can do. Illuvium's been around for 12 months. They have nearly 200 world-class employees all around the world, and they've nearly delivered a AAA game in 12 months, probably 18 months all up, from the inception of the idea to having a AAA world-class, like competing with Fortnite, competing with World of Warcraft, competing with top-level AAA games within 18 months. And the DAO structure has allowed them to do that. Now, other examples, just say there's this cool idea. Just say it's a different game, for example. I don't know, someone's making Pong. Doesn't really matter. Just say there's 5 different teams that all have the same idea at once. They all start their DAOs. They get their pre-seeding. They get funding. They hire some people. They start developing it. Only one of the best one is probably going to be the only one that wins, right? And the other ones are going to fail. But what happens when they fail is, as people see it not going as well, they could possibly sell their stake. Now, in this case, the team and the founders are locked for 3 years. Like, they can't sell anything for, they've defined 3 years. They can't sell anything. So they're obviously locked in for the long term to make sure the project. So there is still some risk with the founders, but generally they're not putting in tons of their own money. It's just their stake of the tokens they can't sell. But anyway, so if in this other example, four of the 5 DAOs that are trying to make this one thing fail, investors can sell if they want. Just say no one wants to buy the token because it's definitely a failure. They can't sell. They're stuck with it. That loss is shared amongst everyone, and it's everyone's responsibility to invest responsibly, right? And rather than 1 or 2 people that obviously have good ideas and want to be creating value in the world and creating companies and trying to be entrepreneurs, they're a lot like this idea will happen a lot quicker, and it'll fizzle out a lot quicker, and they'll be able to recoup and go help on another project or start another project a lot quicker. They're not burdened by having a business loan that they've got to continue to pay out for 10 years. That like they're not like depressed, they're not completely down and out. So I think it's a very interesting way of having startups, like having it community owned. Everyone knows the risk. Like everyone, the risk is shared, so it incubates ideas. And not every idea is a good one. Most of them are shit. And that's found out pretty quickly, within a year or 2 or 3. It's like, hey, this idea sucks, and it can fizzle out. And the pain of that, obviously there's a lot of people that are invested in the idea as well. They think it's going to work, and so they, if it doesn't work, lose out on their investment. But as long as the team in itself is genuine and not trying to mislead all the investors, which is the issue at the moment. There is a lot of scams out there. You really have to be careful when you're investing in things, and know that you can trust the team. Like, you don't want an anonymous team. You want a team that says, hey, this is me, this is what I've done. You want all the pre-seed investors to be known, so you could say, hey, this person's reputable, they've invested a lot of money. So you want a very open team, very open DAO. Anyway, yeah, that's the gist of it. I just see a lot of ideas being fleshed out very quickly, and it's like the jungle, right? It's like Darwinism. It's like these ideas eating other ideas, and like if your idea gets eaten, you want to be able to bounce back and just get straight back into it, right? You don't want, like, traditionally, if you've had this business idea, you maybe save for years to try and get it off the ground, do something, open it up, and maybe COVID happens, or like some technology comes out and renders your idea, which was probably good at the time, a bit redundant, and you spent years saving. It's been your life dream, and it can really ruin people's lives. And um, yeah, it's just super easy, interesting seeing this Amazon jungle of projects and ideas and things kind of very very quickly popping out. Some dominating, some dying, some it's like the rate that technology and ideas are evolving right now is absolutely insane. It's being completely enabled by uh, smart contracts, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Like it's allowing, it's enabling so much. It's super interesting, and that's about it. I'm going to stop there.